It's Monday, and it's time for the Sports Ticket with Kendall Mark. I'm Kevin Gorg. Welcome to the Alive and Social Network. Welcome to a recap of a very depressing Sunday of football at the bank. The Minnesota Vikings came in with complete control of the division, leading over their arch rivals, playing with momentum, facing a team that had lost 3 straight, having a certain edge on defense, being the least penalized team in football. And this is how it sounded yesterday at TCF Bank Stadium.
It's an excellent job of capping off a drive that was set up on the right arm of Bridgewater. Rodgers, good protection now out to his right. To the end zone, caught, and he is inbounds, secures it going to the ground. That will stand as a huge touchdown for the Green Bay Packers.
They got the 2-point conversion. They went up 14, but the Vikings weren't going to go away. They came driving down the field.
Lost it. Another fumble. Shields has got it, and the Packers take over.
And that was really the dagger right there that ended the game. Vikings never got back into it. Lose the game 30-13. And after the game and earlier today, the head coach, Mike Zimmer, had this to say about the Vikings' 30-13 loss against their arch rivals from Green Bay.
After watching the tape, I kind of feel like I did last night. We just didn't make enough. We made too many mistakes to win the football game. There was too many times that we shot ourselves in the foot. Mistakes in crucial situations, and I think that they played well. So, it's a good learning experience for us, and it's important that we move on and not let this linger. I think that I'm disappointed in our performance, but I'm not discouraged about our future. I still believe in this football team.
And you can sense that Mike Zimmer still really likes his club, but Kendall,
can you?
That's his deal. That's what he does. He's not the most
poetic
guy when it comes to those pressers. He's a pretty straightforward guy. He's not going to candy coat a lot of his feelings, and I love him. I love the way he handles his team. I really do. I really enjoy the way he goes about his business. It was really hard to watch, and I was at a birthday party yesterday with about 25 people, and there were plenty of Packer fans in the house. And for me, I can't hate Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy, and a lot of the players on the Packers team. I really enjoy watching some of those guys compete. Aaron Rodgers is unbelievable. What I can't stand are Green Bay Packer fans. They are obnoxious. And, I've lived here all my life. The Broncos are my team, but I really do enjoy the Vikings. And the Super Bowls they hold over your head, the fact that they call themselves the greatest fans in the world, and I'm old enough to remember when they were absolutely horrible in the 80s and nobody cared about Packer games. They played half their home games in Milwaukee to try to make it more of a novelty.
Really?
Yeah, they played 4 at Lambeau, 4 in Milwaukee at Old County Stadium. I mean, I have a history here where I know the truth. They do have great fans, but they've got nothing else in that city, and it's a really cool stadium, and it's a really cool atmosphere, and there's nothing I can say disrespectful about the organization or the team or that whole setup down there in Green Bay, but their fans are a pain in the ass, and I can't stand them. And this one really hurts. I mean, from a Vikings perspective, it really does. It cuts. And Johnny Cash
said it best.
He did. And the Vikings did a lot of this to themselves because they came in, Kendall, as the least penalized team in the National Football League. And the penalty I will not forget is the pass interference on 3rd and 16.
Gosh.
And Terrence Newman had such a good game in Oakland, man. 2 picks, saved the game late when Carr and the Raiders were driving. And that penalty kind of just typified where the Vikings were yesterday. Then you get the Cordero Patterson dummy 15-yard headbutt against Mason Crosby after a big return. You expect that out of him. He's just not a very bright kid. Tons of talent, no brains. And you get some little dumb penalties, pushing the quarterback down after he's thrown the ball. These are things that Mike Zimmer's teams haven't done. And specifically this year, they've avoided. They've been such a smart football team. They've played such a heady game. And they've made the most out of the schedule to get to 7-2 before yesterday. You kind of felt like, man, you win that game, 2-game lead with a tiebreaker. not only are they going to make a playoffs, you're locked to make the playoffs at that point virtually. Now, you might actually win the division, which holds the team that was one of the favorites before the year started to win the Super Bowl. But yesterday, Green Bay, I think, handled the big stage better than the Vikings.
They did. They're just more used to it than we are, and it sucks, but it's true. Like, I was in Illinois, and we made sure we made it home in time to watch the game. And Jordan's family, they're all huge Bears fans, and they're like, we're pulling for you today. Nobody wants to see the Packers win, And I know Aaron who queued up that beautiful song, our producer. You were at the game, and you heard a little bit of the No Pack No. You said when Teddy got hurt, right? Like, go Pack. I say No Pack No, but go Pack Go.
They were chanting it the whole game. I'm not sure if it was bad timing but there were injured Vikings on the field and Packers fans were cheering.
It's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. And I 100% agree. It's not that I don't appreciate the things that the team can do and that the organization can do. And I had a really fun time when I was there, but I was also in, the more expensive seats because we'd come with somebody who had season tickets there. Yeah. So we were with fans who were a little bit classier, for lack of a better way of saying it. And the game that I went to, they just crushed the Vikings. So everyone was in a good mood. And I'm with Angie. So it's two, 20-something-year-old girls from Minnesota. People are going to be nice to you, But, God, they're just they're so mean and rude. I've talked about it before, but when I was a really little kid, I was 10 or 11 years old, I was standing up to cheer for my team, and a freaking Packer fan threw a hot dog at me, and it splattered all over my seat, ketchup, mustard, relish, the whole bit.
Oh, it was covered in I thought it was just a plain hot dog.
Oh, no, the whole thing. I mean, I'm a kid, and I'm with my family, and it's just, I don't think you really get that bad taste in your mouth, but that is the epitome of classy Packer fan.
I think every team, and I'll include ours in the grouping, has idiot fans. What really bugs me is the arrogance that goes along with being a Green Bay fan, at least when they're around here. And they're our neighbors, and it's fun. It's a great rivalry. I love it. They've had the better of it, no doubt about it. Now I think the Vikings are 1-10-1 now in the last 12 against this football team. But the one thing I will say, being objective the day after, looking back at that football game, is the gap is closing. And I think the Vikings, if you look at the 10 games they put out there this year, outside of the game that opened the season at San Francisco, that's the worst this team has played. And Green Bay was a desperate team that had lost 3 in a row.
Right.
The odds of a team with that guy at quarterback losing 4 in a row are astronomical, so we probably should have seen this one coming. I thought it'd be a tight game, and if Peterson doesn't fumble that football, it probably ends up being fairly close. But the better team won yesterday. And I think, Kendall, you just hinted at the start of your conversation at the key factor for me. They handled the big stage better. Mm-hmm. And we also should not be surprised. They are a team, most of that roster has been in championship games, has won a Super Bowl, has been on the big stage time and time again. The 325 flex game for them is just another Sunday. Where for these Vikings,
that never happens.
Teddy Bridgewater, Barr, pick out some of the Xavier Rhodes. These are guys that are new to that stage, and it showed yesterday. Mm-hmm. The composure that Green Bay had throughout that game showed, and the lack of composure that the Vikings showed, and the nerves probably that went along with it also showed. But I think being that at any athlete at any level, if you go through more of those games, you're better on the outside when you look back. You're better down the road. Mm-hmm. And I think the Vikings, the next time they play Green Bay, which will be Week 17, will be a much better team and a more poised team, even though that game is on the road. I think they're going to be better for it. And I like that Teddy Bridgewater, even though his offensive line really struggled yesterday, kept on battling. The kid would not go away, played through a minor injury, put up 296 yards of passing, no interceptions, didn't cough the football up, and just looks like a kid that's a gamer. I want to see that in my quarterback. To me, a quarterback's got to gain the respect of his teammates more than any other player on that roster, and I think he did that yesterday. But if you want to break the game down into one matchup that kind of tells the tale of the tape, if you have a matchup of fat-ass Eddie Lacy on one side and one of the all-time greats in Adrian Peterson, at least on the field, not off, but on the field, on the other side, if you would have told me that Eddie Lacy was going to run for 100 yards the first time all year that he's hit that 100-yard mark, and that Adrian Peterson would be held to 45 yards, I would have put my house on Green Bay. That's the tail of the tape right there. Whether it's the lead that Green Bay played with, the offensive line that struggled on Minnesota's side.
Oh, God, that was awful.
Or a running back in Eddie Lacy that had probably the last couple of weeks seen less and less carries and was maybe a little fresh for the battle and probably irritated about hearing what a failure he's been.
Right.
He kicked AP's ass up and down that field, and I never in a million years handicapping that football game could have seen that happening. And that is, again, a testament to Green Bay as a team winning the battle on the line of scrimmage.
100%. I mean, you mentioned the offensive line. That was just sad. I think maybe just the first half they talked about it, but we had at that point like 6 penalties for 85 yards, and the Packs had none. And we're coming in as that team that our offense doesn't get any penalties, like nothing. We've got, we're just flawless with that. Clearly, that had a lot to do with the stage, a ton to do with that. AP wasn't getting going. That was very clear. And I think when we talk about getting respect for our quarterback and with Teddy, the way that no matter how much he got hit, I think at one point, it was maybe right after the half, Erin Andrews did a quick bit, and she said, I talked to Zimmer, and he said, why are you letting Teddy back in? And Zimmer said, well, he said he's fine. That was the conversation. And she goes, that was it. I've got nothing else to report. He said it's fine. And I think it's good to see that. It's disappointing that, of course, Eddie Lacy's going to have his best game of the season when he's playing us. Of course, all of a sudden, Aaron Rodgers looks just like Aaron Rodgers again. Of course, all of a sudden, Cobb can quasi-catch the ball again. I mean, all the perfect things worked out for them because they were so hungry, and we wanted that win, but we could not handle that spotlight at all.
No, we didn't, and I didn't see that coming. And I think that there are a myriad of areas where the Packers were better. You mentioned the offensive line, and I think that Norv Turner is such an interesting and knowledgeable offensive coordinator, but he's kind of had the tail out there all year long with the multiple tight end sets that he doesn't trust the guys that are set to block. And when you're losing 2 players like Sullivan and Lodeholt, 2 of the 5 guys that you were counting on, 2 very good players, it's been a work in progress. And so you've seen 2 tight ends, sometimes 3 tight ends and a fullback in play to help Teddy, to help Adrian out. But when you get down in a football game, and the Peterson touchdown that Aaron played for us cut it to 19-13, everybody was a little hopeful at that point. But when you're chasing the game throughout and playing from behind, and after Rudolph scored, they had a brief 6-3 lead. But I think the Packers got back-to-back field goals in the next drive, and then the dagger after the pass interference before the half was the Cobb touchdown that really changed the complexion of what Minnesota wanted to do on offense. And I thought in the second half, they had to be real one-dimensional. Adrian Peterson had 7 carries in the first quarter. He had 6 carries the rest of the game, and so that really tells the tale there that they're having to throw more than probably Norv Turner wanted to. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a work in progress with this offensive line because those 2 guys are not going to be back anytime soon. So you've got to figure out a way to get it done. Right. Silver lining-wise, Kyle Rudolph had a huge game. 6 for a $106 and a touchdown's a career high. He looked really good doing so. Now we need to see him back that up. I mean, this is a great opportunity for Minnesota to take out their frustrations on a struggling football team. Atlanta got off to that 5-0 start. They're 1-4 since. They just had a quarterback named Hasselbeck, who's got to be as old as me, go down there and beat them, coming from behind to do so. 21-7 lead for Atlanta in the second half. They couldn't hold that lead. They've really lost all control of what they're trying to put together for a season. Their running back, Devonta Freeman, left with a concussion, so his health for the week is still up in question. And Matty Ryan, who's a terrific fantasy option more often than not, is really struggling. He had 3 touchdown passes yesterday, but he also had a pick 6 that led Indy back into that game. This is a great matchup for Minnesota. I see the early line in Vegas is Atlanta by 3. I'm going to tell you, because this is the only show we're doing all week, that the Vikings will be one of those plays that I would look at if you're in Vegas, crush the Vikings plus the 3. The point is now for Minnesota is to make that game at Green Bay in Week 17 relevant and make it relevant inside the division. Have a playoff position locked up and at least stay within 1 game of Green Bay where if you win that game, you can share a division title. And if you look at the schedule for both these teams, we'll take a look at Green Bay's schedule. They play Thanksgiving night at home, Brett Favre night against Chicago. Then they go to Detroit on a Thursday night. Then they host Dallas. Then they're at Oakland. Then they're at Arizona before they host the Vikings. So you've got easy game, pretty easy game, really tough game at Arizona, and then the Vikings game. So they're probably going to, as I handicap it, have 1 loss in there. I'll put the Arizona game as a loss. They'll be 11-4 into Week 17. For the Vikings to be relevant, that means they only can lose 2 games here in the next 5. At Atlanta, home to Seattle, at Arizona, home to Chicago, home to the Giants. And The at Arizona is going to be really, really tough. You're going to be at least a touchdown underdog in that game. Probably unlikely you win that one. The swing games for me are the first 2 on the schedule. Next week at Atlanta, get over the disappointment and handle your business. You're a better team than the Falcons. And then home to Seattle, who I think is about as scary a team as there is right now at the record they've got at 5-5. They're a much better team than that record indicates. Home to Chicago and home to the Giants should both be wins. Yep. So I'm not really worried about those games. If that's the case, you'll be 10-5 or 11-4 in the game. The game will matter. And so I really think for Minnesota right now, these next 2 weeks are huge. And put this game behind you. It didn't go well. The penalties were bad. The costly fumble, bad. But overall, this team is closing the gap on the Packers. And I'm not sold on Green Bay, guys. I really am not sold on what I saw yesterday. Eddie Lacy's not going to be able to do that on a regular basis. Aaron Rodgers, to me, and the stats were okay. He threw for 212 on a pair of touchdowns, and the throw to Jones that Aaron played could not have been a better throw. I mean, that was a beautiful throw. 2 players there from the Vikings, only 1 Packer. He laid it right in his hand. So he's got the remarkable skill set to make a big play at any time in the game. I'll give him that. But I don't trust what I'm seeing with my eyes from that football team. They don't look like a dominating football team. They don't look like a team that can challenge any top teams in the NFC. And right now it looks like Carolina and Arizona are those top teams. I don't see this Packer team going on the road and beating either one of those teams. So for me, yeah, celebrate your win if you're a Packer fan. Enjoy it. You beat your arch rivals again. But I think this is a smaller gap from Green Bay to Minnesota than we've seen in many years.
I agree. I was just kind of looking at the game, the upcoming game with Atlanta. And like you said, I mean, Matty Ice, he was pretty ice cold his last game.
Struggling.
And with Devontae Freeman, do we really know any more about what's going on with him at this point?
He's got to pass the protocol. And so, we won't know until probably Thanksgiving Day or the day after on Black Friday whether he's playing or not.
Right.
And that's a huge factor for me because
that's huge.
If he doesn't play, they're pretty one-dimensional, and the Vikings can key on that pass rush and create some trouble. If he plays, then they're a much different team. Freeman's a really good back, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And like you just touched on, I mean, Julio Jones is going to be he's Julio Jones.
He's pretty good.
You can't like get down on that, but I think the thing I was most worried about yesterday, other than Teddy going down, was at the point where they were like, and Harrison Smith, he's down. He looks like a lot of pain, because you look at, okay, just the Packer game, that would have been one thing. But if you take him out of our defense, if something like really bad would have happened, we're screwed, man. I mean,
you got to have the hitman out
there. He's it. So I would say so too. I mean, Chicago, for some reason, I mean, it's always a close game with Chicago, even if they're not a great team yet, but they're coming back.
They're playing pretty good football right now.
They had the loss last week, and I think they're just like us. What's his name? Their head coach. What's his name? From?
The old Broncos coach.
Yeah, the old
Fox.
Broncos coach. Yeah. I'm like, you should know that.
John Fox. Yeah.
Yeah, John Fox. I mean,
I was blanking, but yeah, Johnny Fox.
You could tell. With that guy, I mean, the way that they started that season was just so unacceptable to him.
They're much better now. Yeah, they gave the Broncos all they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't have been surprised, right? Former Bronco coach.
Right.
Knows the team pretty well.
So I think they're really hungry for it. I mean, Detroit's a non-issue, period. I can't believe they beat the Packers and we couldn't beat the Packers. It's so upsetting. But, Atlanta, I think that should be a win. I think that the Giants, to be honest, I haven't watched enough of the New York Giants to really know
They're scary
much
on
about
offense,
that.
but their defense is really susceptible to the passing game. We'll see if Peterson can really soften them up with the run. Right now for Minnesota, it's I think just focusing on this week and get some positive vibe back around the football team. I, as always, have my daughter with me. She's downstairs doing her homework here at our palatial studios in South Minneapolis, but we have to run to the grocery store to get the ingredients for me to make dinner tonight after.
Spaghetti?
And I'm
It's not hard.
Likely going to be spaghetti, but we're low on milk, and I'm going to run through the milk area there. Cub, I'm going to look for Mike Wallace and some of those milk cartons, because holy crikers, has this guy disappeared. Now, we're paying this guy just short of $10 million, all right? And in the last 4 games, I did some research this morning. In the last 4 games, you want to take a guess on how many yards this guy's put up receiving?
In the last 4 games?
4 games combined.
I'm going to give a really low ball just because I know that it's a
low
low
but
ball.
4 games.
Like 150 yards.
Aaron?
I'll say 88 yards.
All right. He had 0 yesterday. In his last 4 games combined, 26 yards receiving. Now,
what?
I I don't know how you slice this, but this is a major, not minor, major bust.
That's a major issue.
And again, there were a couple throws deep yesterday. Now he's just not. We were told when this guy came in that he was going to take the top off the defense. That's all we heard. Well, Mike Wallace, he'll take the top off the defense. He'll loosen everything up. He's done nothing.
No,
nothing. We're paying this guy $10 million. We should have hung on to Jennings. I mean, Wallace has done nothing, and no one talks about this. And it's great that Rudolph had the game that he had. It's great that Stefon Diggs put up 66 yards and 6 catches because he's been consistently good now for over a month. This kid has drawn a ton of attention. He's handled it well. He's scoring big touchdowns. I got nothing to say to him. This guy has worked his way from the practice squad up to here. Part of this is on Wallace. I don't know what the issue is there at age 29 if he's slowing down. This guy was a big play guy. I mean, he was in Pittsburgh 3-4 years ago. He was taking the top off of everybody, man. The guy was unbelievable. And he's just a ghost right now in this offense. And 26 yards in 4 weeks tells the story. So
it's unacceptable.
They've got to get back, and I trust Norv Turner and this coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball to figure out a way to get him more involved. And maybe you're going to have to throw a couple of dink and dunks early just to get him involved and maybe get the defense thinking about the underneath stuff and then send him deep. Even if you're throwing it deep and it's not connecting, you've got to at least force the defense into respecting that because Diggs is a great middle-of-the-field guy that can cross the field. Obviously, your tight end in Rudolph is a weapon. And if the Vikings are going to be a playoff team, Adrian Peterson's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy. He's had a really good year. The fumble sucked yesterday, but he still had a touchdown. They brought him within 19-13. He's still just an absolute creature when he gets it rolling.
Right.
But the bottom line is there are players on this team right now that are not contributing, and Cordero Patterson's an easy target because he's a knucklehead. And
you're
he's
like, really, dude, you do nothing all year and you do one decent thing and you give us a 15-yard penalty.
But he's such a non-factor because kick return guys in this league are really not big factors anyway. Now, he ran the kickback at Oakland, which changed the complexion of that game, and that is awesome. But Mike Wallace is a huge part of this team, huge part of this offense and payroll, and you got to start asking the question, is it him? Is it the chemistry with him and Bridgewater? What's the disconnect there, and how can you fix this? Because we're 10 games in, and we need to get some more juice out of that orange and get some squeezing going here because you're paying this guy just short of $10 million, and you need him to start doing something and doing it soon. So we've looked at the schedule. Vikings are 7-3, and again, before you start to panic, let me just remind you as Vikings fans, before the season started, if you would have said you're going to sit down to your Thanksgiving dinner with your family and you're going to look at your sports section, and Minnesota and Green Bay are going to be 7-3 tied for the division lead, regardless of the circumstances, I'll bet every single one of those Vikings fans out there that are our season ticket holders listening to this podcast would have to admit, if they were truthful, that they would have taken that. I know I would have, and now that I've seen the first 10 games, I demand a playoff spot. I demand this team challenges for a division. I don't think Green Bay is unbeatable. I think this Viking team, even though they've had serious injuries on the offensive line, is good enough to compete for a division title. They're good enough to not only make the playoffs, but scare somebody or win a game when they get there. I don't think they're good enough to win the Super Bowl. They're not yet at that level, but they're trending in the right direction. And my affection for this team starts with the head coach. I love Mike Zimmer. I've got a man crush on the way this guy goes about his business. He's stoic. He is stern. He knows the game, and he's in it to win. And I love the way he goes about what he does week in and week out with this young team. So I'm buying the Vikings right now. Right after the most disappointing loss of the season, I am buying stock in this season and the Minnesota Vikings, and I think we'll have a real good indication, Kendall, where these guys are at next week at Atlanta. It'd be very easy to still be disappointed and glum, and you lost at home, you got your butts whooped, to go down to Atlanta and let a team that's maybe struggling get off to a good start and then be chasing that game again. I don't see that happening. I see this coaching staff getting these guys ready to roll, and I see the Vikings bouncing back with a victory. So I think that'll be the tell for me. If they do that, then all is well in Viking country.
Then all is well in Vikings. I mean, there's not really much to add to that other than I think you're right. Mike Wallace, nobody says anything about Mike Wallace because Stefon Diggs is great, and so nobody cares. But I hear you. Him, Charles Johnson, step up. Jarius, step up.
We need some offense, man. We got to support Teddy.
Step up. Well, speaking of stepping up, if you like our podcast, there's a couple that you'll really like too. Apples to Apples. It's right before our show on Mondays from 2:30 to 3:30. We've had Scott Applebaum on here like a million times because he's just so funny and we can't get rid of him. He just won't go away. No, we keep inviting him back for more. But he and his son have a hilarious show right before this one. It's that father-son connection that you gotta love. Listen to that 2:30 to 3:30 on Mondays, or always at aliveandsocial.com. Otherwise, another familiar Scott that you've heard of is Scott Schweitz, and he's just did the show with me last week while Gore was out of town. He's from Wild Wednesdays. They tape from 5 to 6 at Bennett's in St. Paul. You can come and watch the show. Otherwise, you can just listen to it. They talk all things NHL, all things Wild. We know we love the Wild, and we know you do. So tune in, aliveandsocial.com.
I want to thank our sponsors here at the midway point of our Thanksgiving week-long podcast. This is the only show we're doing this week, so do not look for us on Thanksgiving at our favorite pub in town, Patrick McGovern's on West 7th in St. Paul. We will not be there to celebrate Thanksgiving with all the rubes, but we will be back a week from Thursday at Patrick McGovern's each and every Thursday on home games at 3:30, on non-Wild home games at 5 o'clock Central here in the cornfields. We're at Patrick McGovern's. Coors Light, one of our sponsors, with some awesome specials. And we want to welcome our newest sponsor, Dave & Buster's at Southdale in Edina. We will be there starting next Monday. Next Monday's show, 4 o'clock, we will be at Dave & Buster's in Edina. Come play some vids, some awesome food, have a nice beverage, sit down and enjoy our podcast Mondays at Dave & Buster's in Edina. I've got a tweet from a guy named Alex Conchari who wanted to know, as he tweeted to me, because you're only doing one show this week, will you guys be talking fantasy? If so, who are some waiver wire gems for tomorrow? Alex, we've got some gems for you in a very busy weekend, Kendall, of fantasy football-related injuries. So let's get right to it. Let's have a little refresher course for Alex and the season ticket holders out there. When we last talked about the New Orleans Saints defense, they had given up a record number of touchdowns and yards. They fired their defensive coordinator. Not going to change the personnel. They're terrible. Keep an eye on who Houston is scheduled to start this week. I believe it'll be T.J. Yates, who started yesterday against the Jets. He had a great connection all game long with DeAndre Hopkins. They're taking on New Orleans. Houston's at home. Yeah, I'm saying it right now. T.J. Yates should be a waiver wire gem. If you're in the need for a quarterback, he'd be a great guy to grab, but make sure you verify that he will be their starting quarterback this week. A couple other ones that came up over the weekend that you want to take a look at. Running back Buck Allen will be a very hot commodity on the waiver wire. If you can get him, if you have a bad record and you have an early bid, nab him. If you need to put some money up, put some big money up, because with Forsett out for the year in Baltimore, Buck Allen takes over, had a good game yesterday once Forsett got hurt. 48 yards receiving, 67 yards running, and that was in a partial game. So look out for Buck Allen to be one of the hot waiver wire pickups. I'm not sure he's available, but Thomas Rawls, it continues to be a mess with the Beast out in Seattle. Will he play? Will he not play? It was announced late that he would not play, and boy, did Thomas Rawls pick up the baton and run. 30 runs, 209 yards on the ground, and a touch. 3 receptions, 46 yards, and a touch through the air. Huge, huge fantasy numbers. 255 yards combined and a pair of touchdowns. If you can get Thomas Rawls, by all means, grab him right now. Another injury situation with a running back. Spencer Ware takes over in Kansas City. We got to keep an eye on Chankarik West. This is now the number 3 guy in Spencer Ware, but he had 2 touchdowns and 96 yards yesterday. Certainly one to watch. Indy and Ahmad Bradshaw reunited, and it feels so good. Starting to learn the offensive playbook. 2 receiving touchdowns. Bradshaw is starting to take looks away from Gore. Bradshaw is going to be a sneaky start moving forward for the Colts if you're looking for a running back. Final one is a receiver. If you watched the game last night, and I did in pure bliss as I watched my quarterback Carson Palmer rally me from the depths of hell to get me a tie in my big Canterbury League, J.J. Nelson. Talk about a guy that can take the top off the defense. 4 catches, $142 and a touchdown. I know Larry Fitzgerald's elite. I know John Brown is fun, especially when he scores and does that cool dance in the end zone, but J.J. Nelson is developing into the long ball, big hitter for Arizona, who loves to throw the football. Those are our waiver wire gems. We'll get into the 5 to bench and 5 to bank after we find out, as we do every week here in the podcast, how Miss Kendall's team is doing.
Oh,
Oh, that sound doesn't sound good.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, no.
KG. I don't know how I'm last in the league.
Oh, Miss Kendall.
I am. I don't know how. And it's against these people who don't even know what they're doing.
Oh, no.
I don't know how. You want to actually know? I know exactly how it happened. I'm getting aggressive. My hands are flying.
Yeah, your hands are moving around. Careful. You're going to hurt yourself.
I'm going to like dislocate something because it sucks. I picked DeMarco Murray and Arian Foster and Andrew Luck.
Ouch.
Every single one of those people has sucked or is out or is gone. And I haven't been able to pick my carcass up from the floor since then.
I just gave you a handful of options at the running back position. You have no excuse next week.
That's what I'm going to do. I was just looking at it right now on my super duper cracked iPhone.
But the one you want to get is Buck Allen for certain.
Okay.
I think that'd be the safest way to go.
I mean, I think I'm going to drop Frank Gore. I don't know what to do.
Drop him. Drop him like a bad habit.
You know how many points I got last? Do you want to know how many points? I'm done. I don't have anyone playing tonight. Want to know? I got 84 points.
Is that bad?
PPR.
Oh, that's bad. You got to score in the hundreds every week to be.
Walsh.
Oh, don't bring up Blair
Amari
Walsh.
Cooper gave me a point.
I have both those guys.
1 point.
Yeah.
Let's see who else. Zach Miller, who I put in instead of Martellus Bennett. Good thing he got 7 points, but Bennett got 4. So that was great. Brandon Marshall, 15, 50, 17. Good. You know, they're predictable. That was great. Gore and Murray, 20 points combined between the two of them. It's awful. So I have Blue. What's his name?
Alfred Blue.
Yeah, I have him.
He had a good day.
I didn't put him in, though.
Whoops.
I don't know. And I have Andrews from Tennessee. He got 10 points, too. I don't know. Like, who do I get? Who do I stop? Who do I just drop it
you gotta, if you're in last, you got nothing to lose it's late in the year. Start dropping players and pick up goofy guys like we just gave you in our waiver wire gems. Pick up a Buck Allen. Pick up a Spencer Ware. Grab Thomas Rawls. Grab J.J. Nelson, the receiver. Have some fun with it because at this point,
I'm screwed.
You're screwed if you just stick with what you got. But Blair Walsh missing an extra point cost me the win, and Aaron holds up the I Heart Cam sign. And why wouldn't you heart Cam? I mean, no matter what, you take away his best weapon in the preseason in Kelvin Benjamin. Everybody assumes now they're going to have to run the football with Jonathan Stewart. You know, Cam this is Cam that. He's not going to be able to do this. Not baloney. The guy is Superman. My God. There's nothing this guy can't do. He'll run one in, it seems like, every week. And when they don't let him run it in, he throws 5 touchdown passes. I mean, how do you not love Cam? The guy is unbelievable. And Carolina this week, the nice treat for all you Cam lovers like you, Aaron, you get to eat your turkey and watch him too. Middle game of a 3-pack on Thanksgiving. And this is a gentle reminder for all you fantasy football players out there that no more buys this week, which is great. But you've got 3 games to deal with on Thursday. And I hate Thursday games because the offenses tend to struggle on that short week. But you got some really important fantasy implications. Philly at Detroit is the morning game. Carolina at Dallas, the middle game. And then Chicago at Green Bay, the night game. I think it's a really cool slate of fantasy football action. And then you get the whole Brett Favre bit that night at Lambeau. And I get it. We've just ripped on Green Bay's fans. But I am a big fan of the longevity of careers and what players, mean to certain communities. That's going to be cool. And the fact that Brett was here and did some good things with the Vikings, it's hard to hate on Brett Favre from my perspective up here in the cornfield. So that actually will be really, really cool to see. And so you got to get those lineups set early. You got to figure out the waiver wire early. In most leagues, the waiver wire opens up either late tomorrow or early Wednesday. And then you got to get your lineup set by Thursday. You got 6 meaningful fantasy teams playing on Thanksgiving. So it does change the complexion of what you want to do. And so make sure you're awake and alert and paying attention and hopefully have some fun on Thanksgiving. So let's talk a little fantasy football before we close with a segment on the Minnesota Wild. Let's talk about players that we are going to bench next week. And it's always difficult because this is our only show to kind of look ahead when there are still 2 teams playing tonight with Buffalo traveling to Foxborough to play New England. But one of the players that I think is benchable tonight, or not tonight, but for next week, is Tyrod Taylor, the quarterback for Buffalo at Kansas City. Now, I don't know what's gotten into Kansas City's defense, but in the last 2 weeks, they went to Denver. They held Peyton Manning to 36 yards passing and 4 interceptions. Then yesterday, they go to San Diego, and San Diego's been scoring points on everyone. And their defense held Rivers and that offense to 3 points at San Diego. Right now,
the finals,
33-3. And that didn't help Stevie Johnson on my roster, but I won't get into that. What I'm saying is this.
I'm saying.
I don't want to go against Kansas City's defense if I'm a quarterback right now. Taylor and Buffalo on the short week. Pack a lunch. Do not play Tyrod Taylor in daily fantasy. If you've got him on your roster, go grab that Houston quarterback or find another plan. DeAngelo Williams, running back Pittsburgh. Good luck at Seattle, my friend. Off his worst game of the year, now he gets a staunch run defense at home. Seattle on the road's a different story. They're susceptible on the road, but at home, they get that 13th man in there, and it is just hell. 12th man, 13th, it all comes out in the wash.
Whatever.
Do not play DeAngelo Williams. Todd Gurley, and here's a guy, again, if you've got him on your roster, you got to play him. I get it, but this is more for you daily football fans. The daily fantasy, Todd Gurley is going to be one of the most expensive running backs out there. I hate the matchup. He had a really tough time yesterday against a mediocre defense. Now he gets Cincinnati, a cranky Cincinnati team off of 2 losses, who's really, really good on defense at home. Avoid Todd Gurley in your daily fantasy. Amari Cooper, you know what? I've watched him closely like you have.
Done.
He's not done. He's a super talented kid, but he's a rookie, and he looks like he's a rookie that's, number one, drawing a ton of attention, and number two, hitting the wall. The last couple weeks have been a red flag for me. At Tennessee, I am sitting Amari Cooper this week.
Me too.
I've got to go grab something on the waiver wire. I'm sitting him out. Final sit for me is Crockett Gilmore, who's made some decent strides in Baltimore, but Joe Flacco, like Justin Forsett, is out for the year. Now they got to rebuild that chemistry with Matt Schaub, who hasn't played in a Coons age. Avoid Crockett Gilmore at the tight end position. Now here comes the good news. Here comes the money, baby. 5 to bank on in fantasy football. We'll start with a Thanksgiving tradition. The Detroit game, always fun, always high scoring, climate control, and oh yeah, here comes Philadelphia's defense, who just watched a rookie set an all-time record in their crib. 5 Jameis Winston touchdown passes. Oh my God. Calvin Johnson licking his chops just like you and I at the table, getting ready to eat that stuffing, the gravy, the potatoes. Come on, man. Give me some more Calvin Johnson. I can't get enough. I don't care what his price is. In daily, I'm taking him. Love Calvin Johnson this week against Philadelphia. Ahmad Bradshaw, mega touchdowns. Ahmad Bradshaw, Indy against Tampa. Come on now. This guy, he can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He's back. He had a huge year the last time he was healthy in Indy. He'll have another huge week against Tampa. Eli Manning, quarterback. If you've got him, start him. If you're in daily fantasy, search him out. He will be the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy, in my opinion, this week. They play at Washington. Washington's defense is diseased. We talked about it. Cam put up 5 on him yesterday. I look for Eli Manning to get 3 or 4 at least. Odell Beckham likely goes off. I love Eli Manning this week in my 5 to bank on. Travis Kelce, sneaky tight end start against Buffalo. Buffalo's tight end defense has been shoddy, and I like Travis Kelce at home. Buffalo's we talked about on the short week. I think Kelce gets his. He was targeted 9 times yesterday. He'll be targeted 9 or 10 this week against Buffalo. Kelce, not a very expensive option in daily fantasy either. And my sleeper of the week, I haven't mentioned this guy's name all year on our show, DeSean Jackson, wide receiver, Washington, against a very good Carolina defense. 5 for 87 and a touch yesterday. Now he goes against the porous New York Giants defense that the last time they played a road game allowed Drew Brees to throw 7 touchdown passes, many of them deep. DeSean Jackson, the deep threat who takes the top off for the Washington Redskins. You can really find some value with him in your daily fantasy. If you've got him on your roster, he is a must start against the Giants this week. All right, it is Thanksgiving. We're into the final 15 minutes of the podcast. We're going to talk a little wild hockey, but before we get there, and they have 3 games Thanksgiving weekend starting on Wednesday with the Haiti Canucks. Kendall, your favorite Thanksgiving food and why? It's not funny. This is serious business.
This is real life. I would also like to add that in my league, I actually was the 4th highest scoring person this week because that's how shitty everyone else is, and that's last. How bad I did. Wow. No, I'm second. I'm tied for 3rd to last.
So you're kind of like the Lions. You're not last, but you're pretty awful.
I'm pretty awful, but good occasionally Lord. I beat the Packers.
Thanksgiving food. First of all, white or dark meat?
Dark.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't care either way. I'm good. Aaron, I don't know about you, but I think if you keep the skin on it and if you put gravy on it, doesn't matter what color the meat is, it's good meat.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Give me a big drumstick.
The Fred Flintstone.
You know, this last weekend in Illinois, we had to have 2 kinds of turkey. So we had a deep fried turkey and a baked turkey. and it was all good. That's all I have to say about that. Oh, my favorite. Okay, so Jordan's mom makes this like really good corn casserole thing that I'm super obsessed with. Casserole. Yeah, it's good. I'll get you the recipe. It's like amazing.
Bring me some leftovers, even better. Bring me some leftovers next week to Dave & Buster's.
I gotta go though for like growing up. It's gotta be the stuffing or the sweet potatoes. My mama's got some sweet potato recipe. Let me tell you.
I can't, the stuffing I can't get away from because I don't have it very often, but Thanksgiving is the one time when it's encouraged.
Stuff.
The best part of Thanksgiving, guys, is you don't eat all morning because you know what's coming. You get that 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock meal, whatever. Our family eats kind of early. So you just nibble here, nibble there in the morning, have a little snack here. You know the feast is coming. Then you just strap it on. I mean, you get at that table.
Unbutton the pants.
Absolutely. You eat everything you can. You take a nap during the Dallas game. You watch it. You kind of don't. You doze off. You don't. You just, like you said, you unbuckle the belt loop. You relax. And then you head to the movie theater that night for the buttered popcorn. It's the perfect Thanksgiving.
It's the perfect combination.
We do it every year. We do the big feed.
I got to go on a hike after dinner.
Though. Oh, yeah. There's got to be a walk to wake back up, right? Yeah. You get out, get the fresh air. I'm with you all the way. About 6 o'clock, get out for a little 2-mile jaunt, and then it's right into the movie theater. Load up on that popcorn, sit back, and enjoy it. It's the perfect day. No gifts to buy, no stress.
You know, you're a movie buff. Not everybody knows this, but you are. What movie are you going to go to?
Creed. Can't wait to see it. I was on with Rusty Gatenby this morning and the gang from the big Twin Cities hit show, and he got to see a sneak preview of the movie, and he said it's the best Rocky since the original, and I love Rocky, specifically the first one. And he said he thought it'd be a typical, sequel times 7 where it's just cliche this, cliche that. He said it was super, super cool. Great storyline, well done. And so Creed will be my selection for Thanksgiving night after the feedback goes on.
Yeah.
But I've seen some great movies lately, and we will talk some Wild Hockey at the tail end. But, I mean, just a couple of movies that caught my eye. There's a movie called Brooklyn that is a must-see. Irish immigrant in the 50s. Through a family friend / priest, they get connected, sending her over to go to school and to work in New York. And what an eye-opening experience that is for a kid from Ireland. And she comes over, and I don't know the actress's name. You can certainly Google it. She is frickin' spectacular. She should be up for an Academy Award. It's an awesome, awesome movie. Spotlight is the movie that tells the true story of the Boston Globe back
I want to see that.
In 2001, breaking the huge story with all the conspiracy in the Catholic Church and all the abuse that went on. And it happened before, during, and after 9/11. And so there's a unique twist in the movie tied into what happened on 9/11 and how that kind of disjointed their progress covering this huge breaking story. And this is back in 2001 when companies were pumping a lot of money into the newspaper business and able to do stories that took basically a year or two to put together. And this story had a ripple throughout the world. It wasn't just in Boston. It happened to once they kind of broke it open, it spread everywhere. And it was a sad deal, and it still is. And it's really well done. And Michael Keaton, again, after what he did last year and being up for Academy Award and all that great stuff, kind of seen him get back on the map in acting. He is really, really good in this movie as well. It's a great cast. It's a great story. So my top 2 recommendations right now would be Spotlight and Brooklyn. And if you're looking just for a comedy, you don't have young kids with you, and you don't mind a little foul mouth, dirty play, the movie that just came out with Seth Rogen the night before.
Yeah.
Freaking hilarious. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's not, don't bring grandma and grandpa. Don't probably go with your parents. Right. Don't do that to yourself. But if you're just looking for a little fun and games, it's a really, really good picture. Far better than I thought it was going to be. Again, I went in with low expectations and walked out kind of chuckling to myself. I saw it over the weekend. Terrific movie.
Really?
For a comedy. Can't go wrong. And down the road, for all you season ticket holders out there, whenever you're looking for a movie recommendation, I'm happy to help you out because I'm always at the theater.
It's the guru.
Just tweet me at FSNGorg your questions, and we'll hook you up. Let's talk a little Wild Hockey, Kendall, before we send folks into their Thanksgiving holiday. And thanks for all the great support and listening to us every week on Mondays and Thursdays. We're off this week for the holiday, but Wild play Wednesday at home, 6 o'clock against Vancouver. Friday matinee against the Winnipeg Jets. Saturday, 7 o'clock against the first place and NHL's best, Dallas Stars. 3 home games in 4 days. Thanksgiving in between. Bad news today from practice. No Zach Parise on the ice, so do not expect number 11, back this week with the club. We're hoping the week after, but that's still a question mark. Justin Fontaine back at practice. No timetable yet for his return, but he's getting closer. And no Marco Scandella yet, so he's probably still at least a week away. Dubnyk, third shutout of the year. Nice win over Nashville. Tough week ahead. And I guess, Kendall, my question to you, as you work inside, behind the curtain, so to speak, inside the building, how much fun do you think we're going to have this weekend with these 3 games, specifically the Friday matinee, all those crazy drunks from Winnipeg who come down every year. Now with, again, their Thanksgiving in Canada is different, but they can come down, take over St. Paul. They bring out the best in the Wild fans because they're chanting the whole game. Wild fans want to chant back at them. It's like a college atmosphere, and everybody on Black Friday is up early. They're drinking. They're having fun.
Right.
They got no work on the horizon. It's a 4 or 5 day weekend. Friday's going to be spectacular.
Friday's going to be awesome. It's the only game this weekend I'm not working.
Come on.
I know. I'm working Wednesday for ladies' night, and then Saturday I'm hosting. And Friday it was one of those just didn't work out things. But I know it's going to be a bummer. Seriously, though, Paul Loomis over at the X, I mean, the way he puts together those in-game presentations is just
spectacular.
It's so spectacular. It's so different than anywhere else in the league. I try to explain the job to people who aren't from around here or haven't gone to a lot of other games in other areas. I'm like, you don't understand. This whole Wild Vision thing is different than anywhere else. I mean, usually when you're a fan, if you're sitting there during intermission, there's seriously nothing to do and nothing to watch, and they're giving you programming. I mean, you don't really hear about that unless you can sit on your phone and tune in to like Fox Sports North. I mean, there's nothing to do. So it's going to be really fun. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of Thanksgiving themed something into all of it. Like, I asked Lumi if I could wear Halloween clothes on the 30th, and he was like, yeah, if I can pick them out. And I was like, just kidding. They would give me one of those like nasty old Nordy suits that have like been through everything, hell and back, and I'm like, those smell so bad. But it should be a really good time. I'm really excited for the Stars game. Everyone who's a Wild fan knows that whenever the Stars come back into town, it's like, it's just crazy. It's so fun.
It's always fun when the Stars come back, and the fact that they're the best team in the league right now and they just beat the Wild in overtime in Dallas, I think puts a little extra fuel on the fire. And we know a lot of you out there are big hockey fans, and so anytime you want to tweet us at MSKENDALL Mark, at Miss Kendall Mark, or at FSN Gorg, we'll get your questions in. And our producer, Aaron, has hooked us up for next Monday. If you're a hockey fan, you're going to want to be a part of the show next Monday. As we told you already, we originate from Edina at the brand new Dave & Buster's at the Southdale Mall. Hockey legend Scotty Bowman, yeah, that guy, 9 Stanley Cups as a head coach, arguably the greatest coach in the modern era, if not the history of the National Hockey League, will be our special guest, not in person, via the phone, next Monday, Dave & Buster's. And it's a perfect fit because he's a senior advisor for the defending Stanley Cup champion, go figure, Chicago Blackhawks, and the Wild play them next Tuesday on NBC Sports Network in Chicago at the United Center. So next Monday, Scotty Bowman, hockey legend, a part of our show. And once again, next Monday, come on out and see us. 4 o'clock, so late afternoon, scoot out of work early, head down to Dave & Buster's. Great bar food, great gaming activity, beverage of your choice, and you get to come meet Miss Kendall, take your picture with one of the all-time most beautiful Minnesotans here from Red Wing.
Oh, stop.
Our beautiful blonde bombshell who will be leaving us later in December for a week to 10 days on a cruise to get all tanned and even more beautiful for Dave & Buster's and Patrick McGovern's appearances down the road. But should be a great show on Monday. And let's hope we're recapping some Wild wins. I don't think they can win all 3. I think that's a tall order, 3 games in 4 nights. But they are 8-1 at home right now. I would assume they can win 2 out of these 3. I wouldn't want to pick the 2 they're going to win. I think the front one's the most important because Vancouver is probably the game you're going to be the biggest favorite in. And Vancouver always plays us tough. The Sedins always find a way to the score sheet when they play the Wild. And I think that for Minnesota right now, if you can continue to win 2 out of every 3 games, missing a guy like Parise, missing a guy like Marco Scandella, and some of the personnel shifting they're going through, when he gets back, you'll be that much better for it. The Wild look like a team that's going to be in this thing all the way. I think they're good enough to win a division. I think they're good enough to garner home ice. And if the stars align and Devin Dubnyk continues to show that he can be the same guy we saw last year, I'll say it. These guys are good enough to make a cup run. I believe it. I think there's a lot of parity in this league right now. I don't see any team in the West that's standing above the rest. If Dallas is the measuring stick, and I was just down in Dallas with the club, and I had a chance to talk to the coaching staff before and after that hockey game. If Dallas is the best team in the West, I think the Wild are knocking on the door because as good as Dallas is offensively, the Wild are a much better team without the puck. And for me, Kendall, the biggest improvement for this hockey team is number 20. And it's a guy that last year went through just a hellacious year, losing his father right before training camp, never really, from talking to him now, never mentally really recovering. And I can't speak from experience, but I can only imagine with how tight that family is, how tough that was for him. And then seeing his best friend on the team, Zach Parise, go through basically the same thing. It was a year that was really clouded from the start for Ryan Suter. But again, over the weekend, 1 goal, 2 assists, another game where he played around 30 minutes and played just a significant role with and without the puck. When your top guy has a year like he had last year, it affects everybody, and not in a good way. And on the flip side, when he's playing as well as Ryan Suter is right now, it certainly makes players like Jared Spurgeon specifically better hockey players. And it's just it's a joy to watch number 20 go out there and compete.
Go out there and nail it. I
so
really good. He's fantastic. And I think we were just talking about Dave & Buster's. I just looked at the email. It's actually at 5:00. Sorry, everybody. We're 5 to 6 at Dave & Buster's. We got pushed back an hour.
We did.
We did. I was like, I feel like this is. Yeah, it's later, 5 to 6.
Oh, it's even better.
So, hey, 5 to 6.
Then you have no excuse out there,
you
folks.
You actually can probably come because it's like happy hour time, right?
5:00. I mean, by that time, you've had enough of work. Get the heck out of there.
Get the heck out of there and
get over to Southdale and join us. So now we've given you a different time, and I earlier today thought we were there today. So when I was on that show this morning, announced that we'd be there tonight. So I've screwed this up 18 different ways, but I know, folks, you'll be there next Monday
from 5 to 6.
And we're going to have on a hockey legend. Thanks to Aaron, we're going to have Scotty Bowman join us. So that's going to be spectacular fun.
It's going to be awesome.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving. It's a big week ahead. It's all about family and friends and looking back at the year and appreciating the gifts that you have in your life and just being thankful. Thankful you live here in America. Thankful you got all these great sports to divert you from the distraction that is and keep you moving forward with fantasy football, Vikings, Wild. That's what sports do, man. They're so much fun. And Thanksgiving's a great day to sit back, watch football, eat food. Yes, enjoy your family and friends. Yeah, take in a movie. But most importantly, you're not working. So that's always good, right? When you're not at work and you're able to eat, and, just eat as much as you want. No rules.
Put on your spandex.
Well, let's not get carried away.
Unbutton
Loose sweatpants. There you go. Or unbutton your pants. It'll all come out in the wash. I'm calling for a Vikings win. We always make our Viking predictions on Thursday, being that we're not going to be on the air Thursday. I'll make the prediction right now. Vikings 27, Atlanta 17. Kendall, we need a score from you.
If Freeman is out.
I'm assuming he's going to play.
Okay. If Freeman is out, that's just a guess. I say 10-24.
You're really crunching the numbers here.
10-24.
24-10 Vikes. Yep. Always say the winning score first.
24-10 Vikes. I'm just still doing math. It's hard. And then if he is there, if Freeman is in, then I would say it's going to be 21-24. 24-21 Vikes. Yeah. Okay. There we go.
We got to work on this because if you don't say the winning score first,
I know.
And you're on the sports ticket.
I used to do that way back in the day, and my dad was like, "Are you stupid? What's wrong with you?"
No, you're blonde, and there's a big difference there. No, we know that. Aaron, I need a score to you because you were at the game. You were up close and personal dealing with those stupid Packer rubes. You're still hurting. Johnny Cash told us that earlier. Your Viking prediction for the game in Atlanta. Let's assume Freeman plays.
27-17 Vikes.
Hey, you're going right with me.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, good for you.
All right.
Is that what you said? You don't actually listen to the show, Aaron?
No, he's blocking us out. I would too. He's in here for an hour stuffed in this closet we call a studio for 60 minutes. I would too. But again, for all you season ticket holders out there, happy Thanksgiving. Special happy Thanksgiving to our sponsors, Coors Light, Patrick McGovern's Pub, and starting next Monday at 5 o'clock, we get to go to Dave & Buster's and play video games. Yes, you can join us along with Scotty Bowman and a cast of hundreds. Yes, hundreds. For Kendall Mark and our producer, Aaron, I'm Kevin Gorg. Thanks for listening to The Sports Ticket right here on the 11 Social Network.